vertical because that is the way that it seems like it made the most sense. But if I need to turn sideways, let me know. Hi. So I'm vertical because it's filling up the entire screen. I don't know what you guys can see on yours, but I feel like when I turn it sideways, let's see what it does. Orientation is locked. Rotate device back. Okay, well, this is where we're at. We're going vertical live today. Hi, hello, and welcome. I am filming this on a Wednesday because Wednesday is the normal day that I drop a video. And if you have been following along, you know that I actually released last week's video on Monday of this week, meaning that I didn't have a Wednesday video, and I just missed you guys too much. And I decided I was going to go live, and I'm just going to chit chat a little bit about a topic that I have. I'm going to talk a little bit about my week and just kind of share some things that I learned with you guys, because I learned something this week that absolutely blew my mind, and I have a hard lesson learned. So I want to share that one with you guys so you don't make the same mistake. And yeah, we'll just hang out and chill for a minute. Hi, hello. I really appreciate it. I am so grateful for all the amazing people I've met on this YouTube journey. It's been truly wonderful and definitely very different from Whatnot, because it's just different. I'm not selling, I'm teaching, it feels like. And so I've been really enjoying some of the different types of connections I've been making. So glad to have you guys here. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So we are live. So if you're watching this on the playback, you might see me responding to some comments. That is just because I am live right now. But let's just chat a little bit about what I kind of have on my mind. So here's what I'm thinking. I want to share with you guys my story. I did a plush stuffed animal toy educational material show this past week on Whatnot. What's today? Wednesday. So it was technically 2 weeks. It was last Friday is when I did it. And so 2 Fridays ago from now. It's important to the story. So one question, how sellers get their money. You just have payout, just like any other app. When someone makes a purchase, it goes into whatever your little wallet is within that app. I use PayPal. So I have my money cashed out directly to PayPal personally. So basically I had this plush show and I decided to do something different because I was basically going through my entire room of plush and toys. I said, let's make bundles on plush. And I have never really done plush bundles before because it takes a little bit more work than book bundles. Books you can stack up neatly in a stack. Plush you can't really neatly stack. So it can take up a lot of space. But I thought I would give it a try. Hey, Gianni. I need some help with advanced trigonometry since you are offering teaching. I wish. You know how badly I wanted to drop out of that physics class? I changed my degree from a Bachelor of Science to a Bachelor of Arts, so I didn't have to take a lab for physics. So no, I don't want to, nothing with math can you learn from me. I'm not the person. I wish. So I did the plush show, did bundling, was great, had a great show, awesome show, and went to go ahead and start shipping the orders and ran into a huge headache, something I had never experienced before. So a little bit of backstory. I do bundling on my book shows. It is by media mail, which means it is by weight, and it generally doesn't matter the size of the box. As long as the box doesn't weigh over 70 pounds, and I think that in the cubic feet of it, I think it's like 120 inches. So basically like your length, your width, and your height don't exceed 120 inches is kind of the dimension. So pretty much you can ship a ton of books in a big old box and it's not going to matter. Well, with priority and ground, it matters. It matters the size of the box. It matters how much it weighs. It matters where it's going, right? So I'm not really used to having issues with bundling at all. I like your screen name. Your hard-earned tax dollars fund my unemployed lifestyle. No, that is not true. They do actually mean no, believe it or not. I think when most people say yes or no, that's kind of what they mean. So that's your answer. So I noticed that when I was going to ship the boxes, they were like severely getting adjustments. Some of them were like $1 or $2. Some of them were $5 and $6. I had one that was 50 something dollars and one that was like $75. And I was just like, oh no, what happened? So I go and look and I'm thinking, you know what I noticed? Whatnot didn't automatically like unbundle orders. So basically Whatnot will say, hey, we think the items that you're selling kind of exceed a 12 by 12 by 12 size box. And we are going to go ahead and make the buyer on their next purchase pay that initial shipping rate again. So they're going to have to pay $8 or $9 to continue buying in your show, because we think you're going to need to ship those items in a separate box. So we're going to split it into 2 shipments. So then when you go on your back end, you'll see sometimes you have like 2 or 3 different shipments for one buyer. And you're like, why is that? Well, it's because Whatnot kind of deemed that on their own. Well, the problem is with bundles, you don't have multiple shipments for Whatnot to kind of determine that on their own. It's one bundle with one, pile of stuff. It may be a couple items in the bundle. It may be like a whole trash bag size worth of stuff in the bundle. And Whatnot doesn't really know the difference. So it's kind of up to the seller to say, hey, I can't fit all of this in a 12 by 12 by 12 box, roughly 12 by 12 by 12. This is going to exceed that size. I need to break this into 2 shipments. I didn't know that. So that was my big failure on Whatnot this past week. I just didn't know. I thought in my brain, Whatnot has always done it in the past. Well, it's because I've never done bundles in the past. So lesson learned was that if you are selling larger items in bundles, like I preach all the time, bundling, you need to keep in mind what size box it's going in. How much of it can you fit into a relatively decent sized box? When you start hitting those dimensions that are getting over that 12 by 12 by 12 range, you're going to start seeing those label adjustments. So here's what ended up happening. You get 5 label adjustments a week from Whatnot, and there's some guidelines to that, but for the most part, you get 5 label adjustments. Well, I went in and I was like, okay, I will just ship the items because why not? And yeah, Gianni says shipping on Whatnot is crazy. That's a hard lesson learned. It is. So I went in basically, and before I got to like the $75 adjustment and the $50 adjustment, it was a couple bucks here and there. And I was like, oh yeah, just adjust it. Justin's printing. I'm saying a lot of justs. Justin was printing out the labels. So I'm finishing packaging orders, and he's like, oh, hey, there's a label adjustment. I'm like, okay, no big deal. So he submits it, right? Next one, he's like, oh, there's a label adjustment on this one. It's like $1. I'm like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Just adjust it. Sometimes there's label adjustments on plush. It's just not a big deal. Then he gets to one and he's like, this one's like $13. And I'm like, okay, we shouldn't have this many label adjustments, and it definitely shouldn't be $13. What's going on? So at this point, we had done like 2 of the label adjustments, only had 3 left for the whole week. And I had noticed as he was going through, and he was basically putting anything that needed an adjustment to the side. He's like, this one's, $12. This one's $5. This one's $4. This one's $50. And I was like, no, what is going on? So I ended up being delayed on about 9 packages from that order, from that week, that show, 9 packages total. I had to delay and message all of the buyers and say, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, I know most of you guys know me. This isn't like me. Give me a few more days and I'll have your package shipped out. And the reason why I waited is because after every week, your adjustments reset. So if I waited till Monday, I could have waited not Monday, I take that back, because I started shipping on Monday or Tuesday. I had to wait until the following Monday, which was 2 days ago, to actually ship those packages. And then what I did was I went in and I did the highest one first. And the reason why the $75 one was a label adjustment is because they ordered a ton of stuff, and like way too much stuff, not for them, but just like for a box. So I had to like double Frankenstein box it. And the label adjustment was $75 because they live in Guam. They literally live the furthest that they could possibly live to ship in the United States. I live on the very east coast of Virginia, and they live in Guam. And if you're not familiar with where Guam is, it is like in the Pacific Ocean. So I think, right? Guam's all the way over there in California. It was $75. It was going to be a ton of money to ship to them. So, I luckily had put their bundle into 2 separate orders. I was able to, instead of taking the $75 label adjustment, which wouldn't have mattered anyway, because it would have came out of my adjustment. The box was too big-ish anyway. I was like, I need to condense this. I split their 2 bundles up. And so instead of taking that, I took a $9 adjustment. So it wasn't too bad. So took that, then I had 4 left. I did the $50 one. I did a couple of the $13 one. I had a couple $5 ones, and then that was it. And so I only ended up coming out of pocket like $20. So it wasn't too bad, but $20 is a lot less than than it could have been. And that was me waiting like 6 days to ship out 9 packages. So that's a really long time. So if I go on my analytics, it'll probably say like, hey, you had like 9 delayed packages. And I'll go, I know that That was very intentional because I would have lost closer to like $100 had I shipped them all out essentially. So it was a definitely a big choice of like, what do I do here? But hard lesson learned. I didn't know and now I do. So if you're not selling books and you are bundling, keep in mind the size of your boxes that you're using. So when you are making those bundles, think how big is this bundle? Is it small items that can fit into a box easily, or are they larger items that you need to kind of think about the size of the box that you're going to be putting them in? And I used to do this all the time with sourcing. I wouldn't buy stuff because of the box. I'd be like, oh, this is going to be so hard to ship. And I just kind of blanked on that because I've never had that issue before. So that's been my week. So that ended up throwing everything off. And then on top of it, I had two book boxes I couldn't ship out because they only had a couple of dollars in difference, but I wanted to wait to use them on the higher valued stuff. So I had to wait on technically 11 packages to ship out. So it was a headache. But on to other news. I know, it was so sweet. I like literally out of the 11, I think 8 or 9 were regulars, like super regulars too. So I was like, this is not me. And they were like, yeah, not a problem. And then like 2 or 3 people were new. And I did have one person was like, hey, are you shipping my package? And I'm like, I am so sorry. I promise this is not like me. But I need like 4 more days. If it's time pertinent, please let me know. I'll ship it out immediately and I'll just eat the cost. But so Gianni said, Whatnot knows the issues with shipping, but won't change it. I feel if they jumped on the eBay way of shipping, it would fix a lot of issues across the platform. And I could not agree more. I know that shipping is going to look so different on Whatnot in the next maybe 5 years or so, at least 5 years, I'm hoping. But they, have come a long way from even doing the $1 shipping after your initial purchase to doing it by weight to kind of figuring out the bundling stuff. They've gotten a lot better than I feel like when it started, of course. And I just hope that they continue to get better. I would love to see international shipping become a thing. I always try to tell people in Canada and even across the pond, if you will, just like when they figure out a really good shipping way, like a good international shipping program way to do things, like an agreement with a post office or whatever they have to do, I think that'll be a big game changer too. So yeah, the shipping could use some tweaking. So just try to be educated on that as much as you can, as far as not even related to Whatnot, just how does shipping work? What is priority? What is ground? What are the dimensions? When do the weights really make a difference? So learning that kind of stuff and being familiar is really important also. So keep that in mind for sure. I'm lucky to be in media and not have to worry about it half the time, but yeah, that was a tough lesson learned for sure. So other than that, I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on right now within my business, because I know there's a lot of you guys that were following me through the Pivot series where I was changing up my business model and doing all kinds of stuff. And guys, I have a little bit of tea for you, a little goodwill tea, if you will. I just learned a lot about my goodwill in my region. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about in the past 2 days, I have learned so many things. I just wanted to share it with you because I am still within a pivot within my business, which is just now the status quo over here. But I am trying to figure it, like I'm trying to nail one thing down. I am surrounded by books down here. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm so glad that I have been able to find books. But I'm not finding enough, and so I'm still teetering between that toy and plush life and that book life and finding a happy medium. So let me share with you guys some things that I learned and kind of how I think it's going to impact me moving forward, and then I will kind of let you guys know what my plan is and maybe give you some inspiration or some solace in knowing you're not alone in this like reselling world, because it is crazy. And then Disney pins in 15. Yeah, exactly. That's a inside joke, super OG Whatnot inside joke. I need merch, and that is top of the list of merch. I used to do Disney, sell Disney on Whatnot, and when I would have a table full of plush and figures and cool books and sets and statues and all kinds of fun things, I would also have Disney pins, and that was the highlight. But sometimes we would be doing the figures, and I would always tell the chat, guys, we're going to do pins in 15, I promise. 2 hours later, we're still not even touching Disney pins. So, and that was just, I couldn't help myself but say it, and it was a lie. I lied to the people every time. It's terrible. We do love our Canadian neighbors. I feel so bad. I have so many Canadian sellers reach out and just say, I'm so confused. Like, why am I not getting traction? And I'm just like, because to ship to the United States, where most of the buyer base is on the platform, is like $15-16 minimum, and that's a lot to ship stuff to people. So hopefully, at least for Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean areas, like the places that are really close to us, it'd be really cool to be able to have better shipping stuff set up. And then Jenny also said, did they get books back? And the answer is no. No books. Haven't had books for 3 days, 4 days. I don't think we had books on Saturday. Can't remember. Haven't had books for a long time. So that's what I'm going to talk about. All right. So let me tell you guys about my little journey. I realized that with the help of Justin, I'll throw Justin in there. Justin has really pushed me to go to Virginia Beach more. So for those of you guys that don't know, I live on what's called a peninsula, which means I am literally surrounded by water on all 3 sides. And that means to get to the main land of like where some great sourcing is and the other Goodwill bins, the other Goodwill outlet, it is about a 30 to 45 minute drive. I've kind of down to about 30 to 35 minutes now, across the water, which means I have to go through a tunnel, like an underground tunnel to get there, which means there's often a lot of traffic. People don't like to go through tunnels. So it's kind of it can be a headache. Well, we found this sweet spot that the bins open at 9 a.m. and I go to mine, whether they have books or not. And if they don't have books, especially, I'm getting pretty much in my car right away and driving to Virginia Beach. And I'm learning that at that time, like 9:30 until about 11:30, 12, there's just no traffic. There's just no traffic ever. It's amazing. Unless there's like a stalled vehicle or an oversized trailer and they have to like shut the tunnel down for a little bit. You guys don't need to be bored with this stuff, but this is just my life. I have my home shirt on, my Virginia home shirt. So I literally, oh my gosh, I could probably show you guys. I can't. I live so far over on the peninsula. I live all the way in the ocean, basically. I live in the Atlantic Ocean is where I live. So anyway, to get through there, it's sometimes a headache, but I found this sweet spot and I've been going over there is my point. And it's been really good. Every time I go over there, I am being constantly amazed at how many books they have out. And then they are doing book bin changes. They did 3 book bin changes yesterday. Well, they technically did 2, but when I got there, I hadn't seen those books before. So I got there at like 10, saw a bunch of books, bought a bunch of books, got some stuff, and left. Then I did some other sourcing, went to a few other places. I found a new source yesterday, Friends of the Library down there, super exciting. So I went there, bought a bunch of stuff. And then I was like, let me stop back. Maybe they put more books out. Maybe they have other stuff. Let me just go check. So I stopped back. New books, not the same book. So I was like, what? They did a book change. Awesome. So I start digging through, get all the books. And as I'm like finishing up, they come out. They're like, oh, we're going to take these. We're going to bring more out. And I'm like, what world am I living in? Is this like a Twilight Zone? They pull the books out and immediately pull 2 more bins right back out, brand new bins. I dig through, get a whole nother like amazing cart full of books, and then I'm on my way. And I'm just like, this is weird. And while I'm there, they changed other bins. They were changing clothing bins, bags, shoes, hard goods. They were doing all of the bin changes. And so when I went to check out, so while I was there, I was talking to somebody who I know because that is the same location where the Goodwill auction is. And it was Tuesday. So they were people I knew that were there waiting for the auction. So I got to talking to one of the guys that he actually lives up here on this side of the water with me. He even lives further up into another peninsula on our peninsula. So he's way out in the middle of nowhere. And he takes that trek as well because it's so worth it to go down there. But he was giving me some information and he was talking about how, I guess, like, I'm not going to try to expose Goodwill, but apparently some sort of like fire marshal came in and was like, hey, you can't have all of this stuff in this location. You need to clear this out. And so they had to do a mass dehaul. So he said this week particularly, it's been crazy. They're just like unloading all of these items, just getting them out. So that's been really cool and good to know. So it's been crazy. And as I'm cashing out at the register, I said, man, you guys pulled like 15 bins out. I feel like just in a little bit of time I was here. She goes, oh, we've pulled out 28 today. I don't think my Goodwill here locally is pulling out 28 bins in like 2 or 3 days. I'm not even exaggerating. I think they're pulling out maybe 5 to 10 bins a day, if even that, not counting clothing. Clothing doesn't count over there because they pull out like 32 brand new things of clothing every day, basically. So the clothing's not an issue. It's the hard goods, the books, bags, shoes, plush. They are not bringing any of that out. So anyway, I was like, okay, well, that's good to know. You guys are rocking and rolling down here. So I get to talking to the guy, and basically he's like, yeah, so that's why they're bringing a bunch of stuff out. He said, I will say they are changing some stuff up. They're changing up the way they do the auctions. So next door, they have the auctions I like to go to every once in a while. He said they're raising all the prices. So those Gaylords that were $5, those are going to be $20 now. Some of the stuff on the wall, instead of starting at $5 or $10, it's going to be $10 or $20. And just everything in general is getting raised. So book Gaylords are getting raised prices. Shoe Gaylords are getting raised prices. Everything is getting, it's like, you're not joking. So Gianni says, jump ship to start selling clothing. It's like dead serious. It is wild how catered to clothing the Goodwill outlets are. So catered to clothing. It's crazy. But nonetheless, I digress from the anger I feel towards the Goodwill right now. I said, okay, well, that's really good to know. So what that means for me is that if I want to continue to do Gaylord, plush, toys, things like that, I need to take into account that that cost of goods is going to be higher. I can't go get something for $5 and go, it was $5 and just have a ton of stuff. I have to pay $20 or maybe $25 or $30 if someone else wants it and I have to bid on it. Bidding something up to $10 is reasonable, or $12.50 or $15, but starting at $20 and having to bid it up to $30 or $40 for the same stuff feels like a big switcheroo. Like, it feels like, okay, well, that doesn't really suit my model anymore. So very good to keep in mind. And then what else did he tell me? Oh, he was also telling me about some flea markets around us. So we have 2 flea markets, more up in his neck of the woods, but they're big flea markets. They've been around for a long time, and the land got bought out by housing development and like a data center. So both of them are going to be gone at the end of this year, which means that is a huge dent in the reselling market. This having access to a flea market that's now gone for a ton of people that utilize that not just as a full-time income, but as a way to liquidate some of their lesser than inventory. So he in particular was like, yeah, I use it. I go there, every weekend or whatever and set up my little booth and just make some extra money back on the stuff. So, not having that's going to be tough. So that's just something those types of things you want to know about. So it's really good to be in the know. This is my moral of my story, is make sure you're making friends with people. I say this all the time. Make friends with the cashiers, with the people bringing stuff out. Smile, be nice. Don't be standoffish. Don't gatekeep information. Talk to people, share information, give them information. They'll give you information. It's really important. I promise you, you guys should definitely be making sure you're making connections. Jenny says, clothes are the majority of the donations they get. So it makes sense. 100%. That seems like a terrible strategy when most people will not buy at a higher cost. It's so true. And so in my opinion, what I think is happening, and I learned this even more after I tell you guys the second story that I'm going to tell you, which is I came back down after talking yesterday to him, going back today because there was no books, went back to Virginia Beach today, got more books, came back home. I said, let me stop at mine. Maybe they put something out. You never know. I stop at mine. There's nothing out. But you know who I see? 3 regulars sitting on the wall like they always do. And I'm just like, why are they here? They're not bringing anything out. I was like, I'm going to go talk to them. So I go talk to them and I was like, hey, I just need to make sure I'm not crazy. You guys are sitting here, but they're not really bringing things out, right? And they were like, no, they're not. But it's something, when they bring something out, it's something. And I'm just like, that's crazy. So we start talking and I tell them about how Virginia Beach is and how nice it is and how worth it I feel like the drive is. And not like I'm trying to give away my honey hole, but it's like, this is wild, right? Where we live 35, 40 minutes away from this store, yet we're having 2 very different experiences. Why is that? So I just facilitated this conversation of let's chat. And we ended up talking. And the reason why I wanted to talk to these people is because one of the women, they're all older. They're all in probably their 50s. Maybe one of them's in their 40s, but 40s, 50s. And one of them's been doing this forever and ever. And then the other 2, I think they've been doing it for a long time as well. But regardless, I don't know. But we just started talking and they were sharing their experiences of how it used to be and what it used to be like. And one of the women, she was talking about when that location wasn't even where it is, where it used to be somewhere else, and what it was like there and how much everything has changed. And it was just a very interesting conversation to hear about this progression of the Goodwill outlets and the increase of their e-com business, their e-commerce, which is where they sell online. So very, very fascinating. But I wanted to respond to this comment. That seems like a terrible strategy when most people are not going to buy at a higher cost. So what I learned from that conversation was, well, you know what it seems like then is that if we're not getting stuff out here and they need to raise their costs everywhere always, because I think they said that we're getting a bin price raise too, like our outlets are going to be higher price as well, supposedly. That's not, I don't know for sure, but that's on the word on the street. That's the what I heard through the grapevine. But I think that that is their way of salvaging that auction, because I go to the auction pretty regularly and I know who's there and I know how much money people are spending and I know how much money people are not spending, and I see the amount that gets purchased versus the amount that's not purchased. This is what they're basically doing. They're employing, I would say, between 6 and 9 people on a regular basis. So not 6 to 9 employees, pretty much full-time hours, to sort and organize into gaylords, take the forklift, bring all the gaylords out to the floor, set them up, put little labels on them, right? Do all that good stuff. Set all the stuff up on the wall, figure it all out, do the whole shebang, then do the auction. And at the end of the auction, all the stuff that's not sold, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 75% of the stuff doesn't sell. I think way more doesn't sell than does sell. Then they have to take all that stuff back on the forklift, back to the back, resort through it, dump stuff on top of each other, re-pull it out, redo it, renumber it. It is a lot of like, how do I describe it? Imagine that being your business, that you once a week pull a bunch of stuff out, all your inventory, you pull it out for display for a yard sale, and you put it all out for a yard sale, and then someone comes and buys 25% of what you put out, you take the other 75% back, and then next week you add some more stuff to the pile, but you bring all of it back out, and you do that a few times, and then whatever doesn't sell, eventually you donate it. And then you just wait for new stuff, and then you do that again. That's their business model. It's like a really bad yard sale. So I don't think they're doing too well. That's my guess. I think they make enough money to like make it make sense, but that entire building should just be a Goodwill outlet instead of half auction, half Goodwill outlet. That's what I think. But that's neither here nor there. That's part of their business though, right? They have an in-store, they have outlets, they have online store, e-commerce. Then they have tech, they have video games, they have jewelry. Some stores have specialty departments for those. And then they also have these auctions. So they have a wide variety of ways to bring in money from all the free stuff that they get. This isn't a video to bash Goodwill, by the way. I just am talking about the reality of what it's like in my area and what I see, and just kind of like how it makes it almost hard to be a reseller right now in my area. It's like challenging because they're playing the game really good. Like they're good at what they're doing is my point. I'm actually complimenting the Goodwill. So while they're making bad decisions for me as a buyer and a reseller in particular, they're making great decisions for themselves as a business. And I think Goodwill's profits are going to be consistently growing every year and already have been for a very long time to come because they're doing really good things for their own business. Sorry, and Jenny, I saw your comment. People will adapt to the higher prices and pay, unfortunately. Yeah. So, and I'm part of that problem, right? I told you guys the Disabled American Veteran thrift store I really like to go to. Oh, I have an update about that, by the way. So I went to that store and some of the shelves were cleared out. So you guys remember I was saying how they're all getting full? And I was like, oh, they're going to have to stop overpricing their books. People aren't going to buy them. They're going to have a ton of books on the shelves. I go and the shelves are like wiped out. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they pulled a bunch of stuff to reprice. Maybe some random person came in and bought all of it. I doubt it. So I don't know what they're doing. But I'm really hoping that they're like, yeah, we can't price books at $4. But I'm part of the problem, because I did buy a couple books at $4. Gianni, can you believe that? I bought a book for $4 with the intent of selling it on my show. There's no profit for me. I don't know. I'm going to lose money on that purchase. No, honestly, I'm not. I picked out good books, but it's like, oh, I've got to be really particular and really specific. And I am still going to pay up on it sometimes. So that is a good lesson. Unfortunately, some people will. You know, they do have free inventory. It's wild. So anyway, another part of the information I got was we were talking about our evolution of the Goodwill that I go to, and the people were telling me about like crazy stories. They were just like, the things that we used to be able to get away with that we don't. And so we're jokingly talking about how we're the problem child Goodwill in our area. Like, we're the ones that are always doing something that cause us to not be able to have nice things. So they were saying, like, there's so much stuff we used to have, which I've experienced that firsthand just doing this for 4 years. Just 4 years ago, the amount of stuff was so much nicer that e-commerce gets their hands on it before we do. And the employees buy from the store too. So it's like a lot of it just goes, it never comes out on the floor, so we don't see it. But they were like, oh, sorry guys, random text message. They were like, yeah, we used to have so much stuff and it was always so nice and you had a lot to pick through, and now it's just slim pickings. And one of the stories they were talking about was having silverware. They were like, yeah, we used to have a bunch of silverware, and there were 2 people that did silverware, and they would hunt for the silverware, and it got to a point where it was so bad they were like cutting people, maybe purposely or not, with the silverware, digging it through the bins. So they were like, okay, this is becoming a problem. People are complaining about getting cut. They were like, let's take all the silverware and put it into like a big boat, right? So we'll just give you all of the silverware in one boat instead of making you dig for it. That's something that they decided to do. And then that became a problem. So then they started packaging all the silverware up and trying to sell it that way. And then that was a problem. So it's like, then they just took the silverware away. We're children. If you can't play nice and you can't figure out a way to buy these things without yelling at each other and trying to cut other customers, you just can't have silverware. So funny. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so us. Jenny said, when I first bought books, it was like 50 cents for paperback and $1 for hardback. Then they raised prices based on the percentage of market price. I had to adapt to those prices. I know, that sucks. And it is interesting that books in particular are priced so differently everywhere you go. Totally different pricing strategies, even at Goodwills. Like, Goodwills in different states have different pricing strategies. It's very, very interesting, but that is the key. We are adapting for sure. Pivot has been the word of the year for me. So we are adapting, we are being flexible, we are figuring out ways to make it work and not let it get us down, because that's the easy thing for it to do. So, what else? So that was interesting, just hearing those stories for sure. But I also spoke a little bit with one of the managers at the Goodwill down in Virginia Beach, and she was saying how, like, she was telling me, she was like, yeah, we bring stuff out all the time. Like, it's kind of our job, and that's why we think our employees are just being lazy, because it's like, that's your job and it's not happening. But she was saying that she is familiar with our branch. She's like, I know your management team. And she's like, and I'm not going to say anything. I don't have anything to say. And I was just like, okay. So I know that there's some, like, I know that there's definitely some, like, because she said, see, I thought we were the problem. And I said, oh no, you guys are killing it. Like, your productivity is on point. She's like, okay, well, that's good to know. I was like, we are the problem, I feel like. And she was just like, I'm not going to say anything. And she started naming our managers by names. I was like, she knows these people. So I don't know what's happening. I don't know. It's a mystery. And we are all trying to figure it out. And every day we try to put little pieces together and trade information and learn, because that is all you can do. I try to take the good with the bad, and I definitely weed out stuff that I'm like, well, there's no basis for that. That's kind of an assumption. There's no real factual evidence pointing to that being the case. So I'll try to take things with grains of salt and then take as much good information as I can, or like what I think is like valid information, and dismiss anything that I think is just kind of hearsay and gossip. But for the most part, what I'm learning is that the e-commerce side of things is definitely ramped up and is only going to continue to ramp up. They're doing really, really well on that. They find it more valuable to pay people to do that business in their model than to pay people to dump stuff into bins. And when there is a labor shortage, they are going to clearly pick, having people work in the e-com than they are going to have people working in the store. And there are reasons for that. I'm not going to throw any shade out there like that, but it's pretty obvious to me that that's definitely the majority of what's happening. And so, yeah, I'm just taking that as what it is, taking my little treks. I enjoy going across the bridge. I just throw some music on or a book. I'm listening to a new audiobook, by the way, right now. So good. Book recommendation for you guys, Lessons in Chemistry I actually have a hardcover of it over here. The author is Bonnie Garmus, Garmus, but Lessons in Chemistry, so good. I'm on chapter like 14, and it is so good. I've already cried. So I've been enjoying reading that. So just, making the best of it. But that's kind of the gist. That's kind of what's happening. I'm definitely going to be steering clear of the auction right now. I'm not going to buy $200 Gaylords of books. I'm not going to buy $20 bins of plush and junk and dig through it. It's just not worth it. I'm still going to go from time to time because it's fun and maybe I can find a deal. But I'm not going to go with the expectation that I'm going to go and make a business model out of it. If that makes sense. Because that's kind of where sometimes you have to be in business. Is like, is this my business model? Does this actually suit my mission? Is this valuable? Is this worth my time? And a lot of times it's not with the hauling I have to do. So I'm going to kind of eliminate that right now. I'm going to stick to my little sourcing I'm doing and fingers crossed. But that's that. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I said I was going to do 30 minutes. It's been 35 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and call it. If you are watching this post live and you have any comments or questions, drop them in the chat as always. And I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so enjoy yourself. I hope that you have a good time with family or friends or by yourself, which is what I'm going to be doing. No, I'm joking. We're doing some family stuff. I actually totally forgot. Mom, tell Will I do have plans tomorrow. He was like, are you doing anything tomorrow? And I'm like, nope, no plans. Actually, we do. I forgot. We're going to my boyfriend's family's house. So we'll go do that. And hopefully have some good food and good dessert. And I'm definitely going to have a couple glasses of wine and just relax and enjoy a true day off because I don't typically have days off. I will be doing a little bit of work probably in the morning, but in the afternoon, we'll go do Thanksgiving. So yeah, I know. I was thinking we could do like a little holiday get together. I thought that would be fun. Like, I'll text you about it. We don't need to tell YouTube our family plans, but we can do a holiday get together. We're not big holiday people anymore. My family is ridiculously small, teeny, teeny, tiny. Honestly, most of my family's probably in this chat right now. So we don't really do a whole big holiday thing. But my boyfriend's family is big. So we always do like something with his family too. But yeah, we did not talk about it. A day off is all that matters sometimes. Yeah. Thank you, Gianni. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. I hope you guys have some great food and some good times. Make some good memories. Be grateful. Remember to, again, you guys can learn from me in this, in a business or in a life when things are tough. Sometimes you genuinely have to find the things that you're grateful for. And I have been thriving off of that mentality in the past like week or two. I have just been grounding myself so much and like not doing like gratitude or affirmations, but just being like, I'm grateful I have a job. I'm grateful that I have access to the resources I do have. I'm grateful that my legs work. I'm grateful that I, can just do this and do it in my own way and I can make changes. That is something to be grateful for in its own way. So leading with gratitude is very important, not just around Thanksgiving, but all times. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you guys later. Hopefully this video format was okay. I can't wait to watch it back being in the vertical. I'm curious to see how it shows up, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I will catch you guys later and have a wonderful week until I see you guys next time. Bye.